Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
Preparations are underway for safe and secure elections, and new laws will help stabilize prescription drug prices and prevent youth tobacco addiction. Plus, a Minneapolis lawmaker weighs in on the officer-involved death of George Floyd. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. The August primary and the November general election will be here before you know it. This week, I spoke with Secretary of State Steve Simon about federal funding for election security and how to protect voters' safety amid the pandemic.
Last year, there was political wrangling over receipt of the Help America Vote Act funds. Has the Secretary of State's office now received all the money that it sought?
Well, the short answer is yes, we do now finally have the money. It is true that in 2018 and 2019, there was a delay, an unnecessary delay, in my opinion, that made Minnesota the 50th and last state in the country to get that election security money. That was resolved, and I'm grateful for that. And this last session, at the very end of the legislative session, finally, two other pots of money, again, that the federal government, that Congress and the president had already made available, were now handed off to us, in essence, because it took legislative action. So two of those pots of money are for election security. The third pot of money, which was passed as part of the $2 trillion stimulus act in Congress, has to do with COVID-19 pandemic-related elections planning. So we do have the money on hand, and thank goodness for that.
So how will all this money be used? You've mentioned different pots, money from the CARES Act, money from Help America Vote Act. What is it all going to be used for?
Well, I would say the COVID-19 money, the vast majority has to go and will go directly or indirectly to local governments. They're the ones who count the votes. They're the ones who hire and train the election judges and buy the equipment and so forth. They're the ones who are going to face expanded costs and responsibilities. This money will not buy everything for everyone, but it will help at least to offset some of the costs that they will face because of the pandemic. And there are a lot of reasons why their costs will go up. In terms of election security money, some of that money will be used to enhance what we call our Cyber Navigator program, which is a fancy title for an operation set up in our office that helps the counties and cities with their elections-related IT and election security. So we need to scale that up and enhance that. There's some software and hardware that the federal intelligence authorities recommend that we in our office employ and that we buy and that we use. But there again, a substantial amount of that money needs to go to local governments as well. We are only as strong as our weakest link. We've got 87 counties, many, many more cities, and they all have to be secure. So to the extent we can help local governments offset their costs, again, not solve the cost problem, but help offset in some sort of matching way, we're going to be doing that through a grant-making program where local governments can get money for things that will make their election system more secure.
So regardless of whether we're talking about COVID-19 or foreign election interference, your office is really a conduit for these federal funds to get out to the 87 counties to handle the work that each area needs?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, running an election is a team sport, and they are our partners. They do the frontline electioneering work on election day, counting the ballots and that sort of thing. We don't do that in our office, but we oversee that process. So yes, we are the conduit, and we've been tasked by Congress and by the state legislature, which with developing grant programs so that they can get money to meet their needs as well.
Now, we're in the midst of this pandemic, and we don't really know how it's all going to play out in the end, but all of our focus really has been a lot on COVID-19. Meanwhile, I would assume that those who seek to interfere in Minnesota's elections and elections in the United States in general are still seeking to, wreak some havoc. Have we taken our eye off the ball? Are we still in okay shape?
Well, I can't speak for the situation nationally. I sure hope we haven't taken our eye off the ball nationally in terms of the intelligence folks and people across the country. I can tell you in Minnesota, we definitely have not taken our eye off the ball. It is still very much focused on that ball, which is protecting our elections infrastructure, the instruments of our democracy. I will tell you that the intelligence authorities who regularly give us updates and briefings have told us in no uncertain terms that it's not just one adversary, like the one that targeted Minnesota and other states in 2016. It is multiple adversaries, governments and perhaps non-governmental actors who have both the appetite and the capability to try to mess with our systems again. That doesn't mean they will, but they have the appetite, meaning they want to, and the capability, meaning they can. And so we have to be vigilant. I think we can do two or more things at once. We can both run an election that is healthy and safe from a standpoint of public health, and we can also keep our eye on the ball in terms of security. I think we have the tools to do that. Can I sit here and guarantee to the viewers that there's a 100% chance that nothing bad will happen? No, neither can Target, neither can US Bank, neither can the University of Minnesota or the Minnesota Senate for that matter, any institution. What I can say is that we are minimizing the risks every day. We're doing what the intelligence authorities are telling us we need to do to harden our systems. And I feel cautiously optimistic about where we are right now in Minnesota in terms of election security.
Now, you mentioned health and safety. We have the August primary. We also have the November presidential election. What should Minnesotans expect when going to the polls? How can they stay safe?
Well, let me just start by saying Minnesotans don't have to go to the polls. We have had since 2013 in the state the ability for anyone in Minnesota to order their ballot to come to them and vote from home. And I have to say, based on the numbers already in the very short time that we've had to make those ballots available to folks, the numbers are off the charts. So I will tell you that in 2016, after the first week of eligibility, the first week that we allowed people to start ordering ballots in mid-May, which is just a little bit ago, in 2016, that number was 88 people. The entire state, 88 people in the first week, asked to have that ballot mailed to them. It was a couple hundred in 2018. This year, it was over 36,000. 36,000 people. So people are voting with their feet. The place to go, by the way, is mnvotes.org, mnvotes.org. All you do is go there, ask that your ballot for the primary or the general or both be sent to you at home. And that way, two things are happening. Number one, it's great comfort and convenience, as always. But number two, it's really a public service this year. Every person that votes from home this year, from their living room, from their couch, is making the polling place safer for those who choose to go to the polling place and for the poll workers who work there, who have to be there for an entire 13-hour day. So I'm urging Minnesotans to take advantage of what's already been in state law. This isn't new. This isn't radical. We've had this for a long time. Go to mnvotes.org, order that ballot to you for comfort and convenience and for the public service of making sure we run a clean, fair, secure election.
Now, I know it's a little bit off in the distance, but how early do they need to send that ballot back to ensure that it's counted?
Yes. Well, the rule in Minnesota right now is that it has to arrive by election day, not postmarked by. It has to get there. You can either hand deliver it to your city hall or county office or elections office, or you can drop it in the mail, and you can track its progress through an online function that enables you to determine that it's been processed and that it's arrived. But that's the rule right now. There is some litigation on that point going on. The state of Minnesota has been sued in a bid to get rid of that rule and make it a postmark rule for this election. We'll see how that plays out. I can't comment more than that. But the rule right now is it's got to get there by election day.
We'll have you back closer to the election. Secretary of State Steve Simon, thank you.
Thank you.
Assistant Minority Leader and Minneapolis Senator Jeff Hayden held a media availability following the death of George Floyd.
This tragedy has left our entire community in grief. Whether if we personally knew Mr. George Floyd or not, because we're reminded once again of how society unfairly, unjustly discriminates against Black men. The time to act, and always has been now. We cannot wait until the next person falls victim to this type of unjustifiable violence in order to do something.
Can you talk about some of the legislation that you would propose that could potentially stop events like this from happening? And it's been noted that many Minneapolis police officers don't actually live in Minneapolis. Is that something that could help build community?
I think that this conversation about community and how can we bring police officers. Many years ago, Rich Stanek, former Sheriff Stanek, who was the state rep, really kind of led the inability for us to call for police officers to live in the community. I think that that is something that we need to do again. When I was a young man, or a little boy rather, there were a lot of cops that lived in the community. There are football coaches, they were our chess coaches, they were our debate coaches. They lived in the community, and I think they had a lot more respect for the community. So this culture of Minneapolis police has been there a long time. I remember my mother telling stories of when she taught me how to walk across to walk across the street on the red and a green light. And then the second thing she told me was that if the police stop, you just do whatever they say so that they don't beat you up. So this has been going on for generations. I think that we need to intervene. I think we need to take a serious look at who's there. I think we need to do things like figure out how members of the police force can live in the community. I think we need to root out the bad apples. I think we need to invest in community. I think that this is a linchpin moment, excuse my French, and that we need to stop. It is too many what we call white thumpers in the Minneapolis Police Department that has been terrorizing people of color.
Is the union part of the solution or part of the problem?
They're the problem. Bob Kroll is the problem. The union is part of the problem. It's a protect. It is everything that they do. The defiance that they have of the chief, continuing to go to trainings that have been deregulated and deemed to be a problem. The union, the police union, is an absolute problem. And if there was a way, and I don't know, because once again, we're trying to look at if there was a way for us to be able to remove the union head or to decertify and get a new union, there was a legal way that I could do it via legislation, I'd be the first to do it.
Over the past few years, lawmakers have sought ways to address the rising costs of health care. A bill to create a Prescription Drug Price Transparency Act is now law, and I spoke with the bill's author, Senator Julie Rosen.
On May 12th, Governor Walz signed the Prescription Drug Price Transparency Act into law. How will this help Minnesotans afford their medicine?
Well, thank you very much, Shannon, for this opportunity to talk about the drug pricing transparency bill, a bill that's been in the works for 2 years now, a bipartisan bill. Very, very proud of this. And basically, it's just going to make drug manufacturers subject to the same price transparency that hospitals, providers, and health plans are subject to. They have to explain why they have a huge price increase.
So, as I understand it, this law will require drug makers to provide a detailed rationale for any large price increase on a drug that costs more than $100 for a 30-day supply. For example, a couple years ago, prices on EpiPens just went through the roof. And if something like that were to happen again, then the drug maker would have to come to the state and explain why the price was going up. Is that right?
More importantly, come to the state and the consumer why the price went up by 10% in 1 year and 16% over 2 years. So they can still have a price increase, and people fail to understand that. They can still increase their prices, but if it goes over 10% in a year, you have to explain that. And you mentioned the EpiPen. I think that's a great example. Went from $100 to more than $600 in 2016. The naloxone opioid overdose, $4,100 a dose. And that was just 4 years ago, $575 a dose. Bedazerone, which is for multiple sclerosis, $90,000 annually. And in 1997, listed at $10,000 annually. So why, since 1997, did it go up that amount? Those are really good examples of drug pricing that's gone out of control.
So with this law in place then, if there's a huge, a percentage increase beyond what is allowed, they have to say, this is why. What recourse does the state have to their explanation? Is there any recourse?
No, there really isn't. There is no penalty. There's nothing. It's just the consumer has the recourse. The consumer is the one that says enough. But no, it just basically is a bill to be transparent about why these price increases. And you can, like I said, you can certainly have that price increase up to 10% where you don't have to report. But anything over that, you need to justify that huge price increase.
So the idea then is to shed some light and prevent price gouging when there's perhaps a sudden demand for a drug that maybe had been less in use, and suddenly there's going to be a surge in how much usage there is, and to prevent these companies from trying to cash in on that fact.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect, I have an article for a perfect example of what you're saying. And it came out March 19th of this year. And it's the only drug maker with the potential treatment for the coronavirus, the chloroquine, the anti-malarial, that went up almost 100% in January. And they basically got shamed, and people found out about it. And so they lowered the price. But that is the type of behavior that we are trying to make more accountable and transparent.
So many states have been trying to get at this price transparency issue with prescription drugs. Will what Minnesota has done be something for other states to replicate?
Yes, absolutely. And there's been about 5-6 other states that have done the same thing. And we've taken pieces out and created our own bill. Like I said, it's a very bipartisan bill. A lot of collaboration around the table with the drug makers, big pharma around the table, and the health plans. And we feel very good about this. It could be a poster child for other states to go after because everyone signed off on it. They're not happy, but everyone signed off.
Senator Julie Rosen, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Nice to see you.
Federal law says a person must be 21 to buy tobacco products. In Minnesota, the age is 18 for now. On August 1st, a new state law will match the federal law, requiring purchasers of tobacco products to be at least 21 years old. Senator Carla Nelson explains the years-long process of raising the age in Minnesota.
I'd like to start with a little speculation. Do you believe that the age to purchase tobacco products would have been raised to age 21 had vaping not become so attractive to today's youth? In other words, was it this vaping epidemic that prompted the federal government and half of states to now raise the age to purchase tobacco products to age 21?
Well, I think the vaping epidemic helped carry T21 over the finish line. Certainly, the fact that for the first time in history, we had seen a rise in our smoking and our tobacco rates was very concerning to everyone. And it was no doubt the result of these high nicotine products paired with kid-friendly flavors and quick addiction rates. And so I do think that the vaping epidemic helped pass T21 quicker. Of course, some of us started T21 way before vaping, but I do believe the vaping crisis certainly helped get it across the finish line.
Now, on the Senate floor, there was debate as this bill was being passed. Some said this impinges on personal liberty. Others said it's not fair that a person can be asked to serve their country, potentially putting their life on the line, but not be able to buy a pack of cigarettes. Others expressed resentment over the federal government's role in getting this through the states. Do you find any of those arguments persuasive?
Well, I certainly understand every one of those arguments. And quite frankly, laws do impinge personal freedoms. And the key thing is to make sure that those laws are just and correct. And in regard to tobacco and T21, it is no different than alcohol at age 21. Now, regarding the military, I have to say that gave me great pause as well, even when I first introduced this bill back in 2017. But I've learned a lot since then, and quite frankly, the military has also been taking steps to be a tobacco-free military. All of the Joint Chiefs have statements in support of Tobacco 21. Every branch that includes every branch of the military, and and the Defense Department actually is looking to be tobacco-free as well. It's a matter of troop readiness. So certainly I understand the issue and so appreciate our military men and women. And of course, we do not want them to also be prey to the addictions of tobacco.
Now, we've talked on this program about anti-vaping measures in schools. We've talked about the importance of an educational curriculum to teach kids about the dangers of tobacco use. Is that still important, an educational curriculum, even though now they will not be able to access those products until the age of 21?
Oh, yes, I believe it is. And the Senate has legislation ready to go. Actually, it's passed the Senate to actually have the Vaping Awareness and Prevention Act that is critically important, just like we do for other critical health issues like vaping, tobacco, alcohol, and also cardiac arrest, CPR, hands-only CPR, and AED use. So this is an important piece to make sure all of our students at least have this snippet of health education.
Now, you mentioned this earlier, and I know this to be true. You first brought up T21 legislation in 2017. So here we are, 3 years later. It is the law of the land. Are you satisfied with this outcome?
Yes, I think we are conforming with what the federal T21 law is. That was absolutely essential. And actually, Shannon, that really helped carry it across the finish line as well. Minnesotans, our retailers, and our law enforcement were in a predicament because the federal law said one thing and state law said another. And so I just want to add that the federal T21 also helped push this across the finish line. It is the right thing to do. I think we know it will save lives. 95% of addicted smokers started before the age of 21 when their brains were still forming. We're finding now that those earlier ages, brains are primed for addiction. And so this is a good thing. It's going to save lives, going to save thousands from becoming addicted smokers. And I'm very happy to see it signed into law.
Senator Carla Nelson, thank you.
A bronze sculpture on the Capitol Mall called The Promise of Youth was an idea ahead of its time, both philosophically and mechanically. This work of art will soon be revitalized by incorporating it with the new memorial dedicated to Minnesota Medal of Honor recipients. The forlorn statue in an empty pool outside the Veterans Service Building at the state capitol will soon be repurposed into a dual role, linking an artist's vision of the hopefulness of youth with Minnesota's courageous Medal of Honor recipients. In the fall of 2016, the descendants of the 72 Medal of Honor recipients with ties to Minnesota were recognized at a groundbreaking ceremony next to the sculpture. That year, the legislature approved a plan to incorporate the Promise of Youth sculpture with Medal of Honor symbolism to create a new Minnesota Medal of Honor memorial on the state capitol grounds. The updated memorial is another element realizing Capitol architect Cass Gilbert's desire for a tribute to veterans at the south end of the Capitol Mall.
What I like best about the design that was selected, it connects the dots. The Capitol complex has a number of memorials, the World War II, the Vietnam, the Korean. We have now the family tribute that's wrapping its arms. And this was the one that wasn't a standalone, but a unifying memorial that just fits in. And it to me, it's almost like a capstone. So that's what I said, this clicked.
The reimagining of the statue, fountain, and reflecting pool is an important step for a work of art that has been misunderstood, bereft, in the shadow of the Veterans Service Building for many years. The statue was commissioned in 1952 as an artistic component of the Veterans Service Building. The architect, Brooks Cavan, planned for a large pool with a fountain in the middle as part of the design, combining functionalism and beauty. Cavan hired sculptor Alonzo Hauser to create a centerpiece for the reflecting pool. Hauser designed The Promise of Youth, a figure of a young female encompassed by a bronze flower with mechanical petals that open and close with the sun. Historian Martin Zanger describes Hauser's design concept.
He said, we've always had wars forced upon us, and what we're fighting for is peace and stability and the future for our youth. And so she's reaching out of this lotus blossom that opens. He has her reaching toward this mural, which was going to depict all the things that the youth of America were dreaming about. The prospect, their future prospects in a peaceful world.
Controversy arose shortly after Hauser finished the sculpture, when some members of the Veterans Service Building Committee objected to the figure.
As one of the more militaristic people on the commission said, we had expected to see a guy throwing a hand grenade, not this naked woman. And they pretended to be upset at her nudity, even though there were nude females in art all around the Capitol and paintings and things.
The figure remained unseen in the artist's studio until an expose in 1957 by the student-run newspaper, the Minnesota Daily, garnered community support for the artist's vision. Once installed, problems plagued the fountain, ranging from mechanical issues with the operation of the petals, leaks in the reflecting pool, and budgetary concerns, to vandalism and litter from kids hanging out around the reflecting pool. Since 2000, the statue's petals have remained in a fixed position and the reflecting pool mostly empty.
In late 90s, we had funding to fix the pool and to repatinate and fix the statue. So we opened it up more and anchored it so it'd be permanently positioned, because it's a hazard if kids climb on it or whatever. And then within a few years, I think they had over-engineered, but we had a leak somewhere, either in the transport of the water to the fountain or the returns, so they just abandoned the pool. So they use this site for a lot of the staging, for ceremonies and stuff like that, but they filled it with water occasionally for an event, but that's it.
And so a new chapter is about to begin for what historians consider Alonzo Hauser's most inspired work, The Promise of Youth.
The promise of youth is a very powerful phrase, very, very much so. And I think, if you get into the weeds, you can do a lot of things, but I think it's almost a mission statement. All right, why do we go to war? Why do we, it's for humanity. We like to, believe that, but it's also the youth that have to pick up the pieces. We need these memorials because it's a key that opens up discussions. So to your readers out there, if they have a relative that's been in the service, put them in the car, take them over here on a sunny Sunday afternoon and just walk through it. Give them the golden opportunity to talk.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.